Hey folks, I think we are live. This is my first time doing this, so it's been a mess. But we're doing the best we can, and we're excited to be here with you. Shoot, I just lost chat somehow. Oh well. Okay, so let me know if you can hear us. If you can't hear us, please let us know. I think we're going though, so this should be good. I want to take a minute to introduce. Well, I'll introduce myself first. I think most of you know me. My name is Nick, and I am the foster adopt dad who's been doing Let's Go Dad. This is Mary Jo, and among other things, she's Robert's grandma, but she's also someone who served in social work in foster and adoption social work for about 21 years. Little bit of an echo. Sorry about that. Let me see if I can do something about that. Okay, can you still hear us? Is there still an echo? Well, I'll keep going. Hopefully that got rid of it. But so she was in social work for 21 years with foster and adoption, or a little more than that.
Yeah, a little more.
A little more, and a little bit with what was called a regional center, or here they call them DD services. Working with families for special needs kids and supplying their needs. She also was a special ed teacher at one point. She was a school board member for several terms, Parks and Rec director or board member for several terms. She served on the Children's Council for a county for a little while, and she was asked to be you don't even know what I'm talking about at this point. She was asked to be or an advisor to a state representative on children and families. Right. Yeah. So she's got a lot more experience than I do. So hopefully we'll all get her to talk more than I talk today, because I think that would be good for people. Still echo. Oh man, I am so sorry. We'll try and figure that out for next time. I'm not sure what would be causing that, to be honest with you. We have only one microphone on. So sorry about that, but we'll go through this. Also, I'm not using the camera I had hoped to use today. Unfortunately, this was a rough afternoon for one of the kiddos, and so the camera I didn't have time to figure it out and set it up like I had hoped to. I think setting a time for live streams is a little bit more stressful than I thought it would be when kids are having rough days. But we're here, and we're hopefully going to answer a whole bunch of your questions. So here we go. First thing I wanted to ask, actually we'll go through some of your questions first, and as we run out of those, then we'll go through some of the ones that people have emailed. I've already answered a lot of the ones emailed to me, so those were critical for those people, but might not be critical for everyone here. All right, first question is, did I give them an allowance? Did I give my foster children an allowance? Yes, I did, is the short answer. The long answer is that looked like a lot of different things depending on the child. In California, I was required to give foster kids an allowance. I had to, and I think that might have been the private agency that I was with, but I had to prove to them that I was giving an allowance to every child in my home. So for that, I think I would take them to the store and say, this is the store we're at. You've got $10 for this week, or how much ever it was that was required of me to give them, and would give them a chance to go pick out something worth $10. And I'd go easy on tax depending on age. If they're a little older, I'd teach them about tax. Now I have in my notes, I have it divided up per child, and I write down what they're getting money for, how much they're getting, and so they never have cash on hand, because children unfortunately steal from each other. The only time they have cash on hand is if they're going out with friends, and I'll give them some money. Usually that's not their allowance, though. Usually that's me covering it. All right. Can we ask about anything? Well, yes, we may not answer everything, but you can ask about anything, for sure. Go for it. What is the most unique thing about Robert? Well, Grandma, what's the most unique thing about Robert?
Well, there's a lot of unique things about Robert, like there are about any child, but I think one is he really has a big heart, and he's really kind, but he's not often going to let you know that. But it comes out, and he does have empathy for others, which is good. I'm not sure he did several years ago, but he's beginning to have that. Like I said, it comes and goes, and sometimes he hides it well, but I just think that's one of his strengths, is he has a big heart.
Yeah. Yeah, and he's 14, so, teenager years, that's just kind of how it goes with the struggles around being a teenager. Let's see, how has Robert's reading been?
Oh, they moved here when he was 10, and at that point he could hardly read at all.
A few words.
Yeah, a few words. And it was embarrassing to him. It wasn't only an academic problem, it was a social, emotional problem in many ways, when we were out places or in Sunday school, or when the other kids could read. So now he's 14 and he's reading past his grade level. He all of a sudden, fifth grade, just kind of took off and started reading. Loved reading when we were in the car, reading signs, and from there went to books, and he's read the Harry Potter books and things way beyond, and comprehension also. I'm not sure why all of a sudden. Some of it could just be his maturity. I think in another school district, it was looked upon through testing that he couldn't read, that he was too low.
Oh yeah, they totally gave up.
Yeah.
They basically said, by the time you're 10, if you haven't started learning how to read, you're not going to read, it's over.
And told him that.
And told Robert that.
Yeah.
Yeah, super frustrating.
And so when he came here, they treated him like he could read and he could do this. And there's a lot of hard work on the teachers and coordination with Nick. He did a certain reading program that we think really helped on everything else. Lexia, is it called?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he fought it. Oh my goodness, he fought it.
It's kind of a boring program.
Yeah.
Once you get into it. But it works. It's a boring program that works.
Really worked.
Yeah.
And it's really helped his self-esteem that he can read.
Oh, huge. Yeah, huge. And it was... part of the issue back where we're from is if they admitted that he had dyslexia, they would have to pay for training for people to provide services at his school, and so they would not do that. So we moved here, and right away they're like, you know what? He probably has dyslexia. That's how it looks on the test scores we got, and we're going to deal with it. And we're going to figure out a way to make it work, and I think we'll be successful in this, is what the IEP meeting said. And that was great. Just a different approach, and it seemed to make a huge difference. All right. How are you both doing? Oh, yeah. How are we doing after the COVID lock-in? I don't know. What do you think? How are you doing?
It's hard. They're back in school now for 2 weeks, I think, full day. And oh my goodness, it's wonderful. I don't think you realize what you're going through until it's kind of over. Robert could work independently. He often got off track. YouTube was very convenient and probably other things, but he could, and he would usually he did pretty well, really.
Yeah, he really did pretty well.
The other child that's in our home just couldn't do it. Even with one of us sitting right next to him, and then when a teacher came on to work with him, I'd think, oh good, I can go to the bathroom now or something, and he'd turn the teacher off.
As soon as someone wasn't right with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was hard.
Just constant. So that was hard and really wore on us. But and it's been hard for them going back a full day. That's been a big adjustment, but a relief to us.
Yeah, it has. And part of the issue was with the quarantine, or we had one foster child we had was quarantined for 4 weeks over, I think it was right before Christmas break and right after Christmas break. And so throwing Christmas break into the middle of that too, and it's like this long stretch of him not being able to do stuff, him being stuck inside with us, and it drove us all insane. But I think we've recovered some from that, and we're doing okay.
We try to have activities down in the basement that were active, games and things, but it's not the same as Nick was always taking kids out to laser tag and the jump houses and to the zoo that's near us. I mean, we were always out there. He was doing things, and that was hard. I think I'm realizing now how hard that was, not having that.
Yeah, and that answers a question that I see is coming later. What do Robert and I like doing together, or what do we like doing with other foster kids? And yeah, for sure, the zoo, going to jump house places, what are those, like trampoline parks and playing dodgeball, laser tag, oh man, all sorts of stuff, even museums and things. Yeah, we love that stuff. And so it's so rare for us not to do something like that at least every other week. So COVID's been rough. Like, it's been rough that way, and I think we're all ready for it to be over. Hopefully that's sooner rather than later, right? Okay, so next question, is private school better or worse for a child? All right, well, we're talking to a previous school board member here, and teacher, so let's find out. What do you think, private school or public school, specifically for kids in foster care or who've been adopted?
And like everything, it depends on the school and it depends on the child. Well, I have found out a lot with private schools is actually some of them have larger classrooms than the public school. And as much as they want to help a child and really try, they don't often have the same resources. They don't have the same specialists that the public school. So that would have to be checked out. Do they have behavior specialists if that's needed? Do they have speech therapy? A lot of them do have that. Do they have psychological services, counseling? And so it depends on the needs of the child and if that private school can meet those needs.
Now, there are special private schools for children with severe emotional issues.
Yeah, that's right. We used to call them non-public schools. I don't know what they're called out here, but they, the county or the school district has to pay for one of their children to be in these non-public schools, and so that's not always popular. But they're small classrooms. They're people who are trained in trauma, with kids that have had trauma, with kids with severe emotional problems. They get a lot of individual attention. There could maybe be 4 teachers in a classroom of 8 or something, and so there are special. You have to look into it to find it, but there usually are. We call them non-public schools. That's what they call.
And they're for pretty high level children, because a school's not going to sign off on that child going there. And I think the school actually has to sign off on them going there, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes.
Yeah. So they're not going to sign off on spending that kind of money unless they just can't have that child in the school. All right. Let's see what else we got here. Oh, gosh. Most unique thing about me.
Patience.
Oh, no.
I don't know how he does it. I don't know.
Patience is earned. I have the scars to prove it. I don't know that I'm that different from anyone else, but I always said I can hang in there better than some people in foster care. I don't know if that's even still true, but yeah, I can take a lot. And so...
And I think that another thing, I don't know if it's quite directed, you're willing in your support group and with some friends that are foster parents, you're willing to share what's going on and some of the problems you have, and so you get some good support, and then of course you can support them. But a lot of people don't want to talk about the problems they're having, and you are willing to be open.
Yeah, I think openness is so important if you're going to do foster care or adoption, because you're working with a team. And like with some of the problems we've had with one foster child, it just blows my mind that the worker is shocked that I'm telling them what's going on. That blows my mind that that's an issue, because children, I mean, when a child is doing this, you need all the support you can get when they're flipping out, when they're having issues. But it's also cool to celebrate then all the good stuff after that as they grow and change. And so I just think openness is so key, so key. All right. Man, sorry that there's still an echo. Why is it that some schools here in Michigan are failing kids? Schools here don't take the time to teach kids how to read? Question mark.
Oh, wow.
I don't know specifically about Michigan very much.
What I can say generally, because I don't know anything about Michigan, is parents don't realize parents have the power. And they don't realize that. And school districts don't want parents to realize that. But I have seen big changes made in school districts because maybe just 5 or 6 parents got together and demanded change. I mean, I always tell people to work with school people, go up the ladder, teacher, principal, superintendent, school board, to try to get what's needed for children. I think that's the only way to make changes is through the parents, and teachers will tell you that. They're a little afraid to tell you that, but parents are the ones, but whether you believe it or not, parents are the ones that can really make a difference. It takes a lot of work.
All right, let's see. What chores do you have kids do around the house? Oh, we've tried so many different things on this. And I asked someone else, because I'm not the expert. We have a chore chart up, and I pay them based on those chores. Like right now, there's someone in the next room over from us cleaning their room because they know they're not allowed to play until that room is clean. Like, go out and play with a friend until that room is clean. And so even though that's been something that's been told this child for a week, until we got to the point where that was an issue, they didn't start cleaning their room. And it's like, oh shoot, well, you aren't going to have much time to play with your friend. So I don't know, certainly keeping your room clean. By the time they hit 12 is that magic number where I make kids do their laundry and put it away. I don't know why 12, but it seems to work. They sweep floors, they sweep the sidewalk, they shovel snow, but only by choice. So I did let our kids pick which chores they're going to do. I put up a chore chart, and they wrote their name or had me write their name next to each chore so they could claim it. And and I pay more for things like shoveling snow because I know that's kind of hard. Does Robert watch these videos? If so, what does he think on the people commenting? I think he's embarrassed. I think he's shocked that there are so many people commenting, and I think he's a little embarrassed by it. But he's also, it depends on the moment. Because sometimes some of your comments really do touch him, like it really hits him, like someone really said that. So I think we're getting used to it. We're getting used to having a channel. It's really only been a couple months since we took this seriously. we put a video or two up in November, but just like, this will be fun, let's put a video out. And so then we saw that people were being impacted by it, that folks were choosing to become foster parents based on our videos, and we're like, wow, this is making a difference. Let's do this. By the way, we're up to 7, if you're keeping track, maybe 8, 7.5 kind of people who've decided to move forward with foster parenting because of our channel, which
that you know of.
That we know of, yeah. And so we feel so blessed by that, and it's so good. It feels so good to be making a difference through this. I love that, and that's what keeps us going. But yeah, he knows. Sometimes he watches, sometimes he reads the comments. Mostly I read the comments to him, and he has mixed feelings about that, embarrassment and overwhelmed and all that stuff. We're getting used to it. Yeah, we're getting used to it. Has Robert had any video ideas I've had to decline? Yeah, well, this week he wanted me to go buy like 100,000 soda cans, and I forget what he wanted to cut through them with. He wanted me to pile them all up, and then he and I were going to use something to race by cutting through them with something silly. I don't even know how well it would work, but I'm like, yeah, probably not now. It's probably not a video idea for now. Like he wanted to go through soda cans, and then I went, oh, and wouldn't the soda cans like scratch you and hurt, and wouldn't that be an issue? No, he wanted them to explode. That was the whole point. He thought that would be fun. So I don't know. So that was his idea. But he does have some really good ideas, and we've brainstormed some good stuff. I have a long list of things that hopefully we can get around to. Which techniques helped you cope with the change from a single person to a single parent? Oh my goodness. Oh, well, I'll let you talk a little bit about that too, because you saw it from your perspective, but I didn't know. People told me, like, oh man, you're trading your life in to do this. Like people told me that I would have no more free time, life wouldn't be about me anymore, and all of those things. And I thought I was ready, and then you get a child and you're home, and you're not ready. I mean, I don't know if you can be ready. So what did I do to cope? Well, I'd say the best thing I did was I had a good, strong group of friends. Like, I had friends who brought toys the day Robert moved in. First child, first day, brought this whole huge thing of Matchbox cars, and they hung out and chatted with me for a while. I had a friend who cleaned some for us, which was huge. Like, she's like, yeah, you can pay me if you want, but you also don't have to. And so, she came some and cleaned, and some, and I did pay her, but I didn't need to and didn't feel like I needed to. What else did I do to cope? Man, I called her, especially at first, because the behaviors were terrible at first. Every night? Every other night?
I don't know.
I don't know.
A lot, but we expected that. I mean, that was part of the deal going in.
Yeah.
That we would try to be available. And I look back and I think we really didn't understand entirely how difficult things were. I don't know why, but we didn't.
That's okay. I blocked that whole period of my life out.
That's
So,
a good thing.
yeah.
But once we did, I think we jumped in pretty well.
That's good. That's good. Yeah, I don't know. Man, other than that, I'm not sure really. I joined the support group after 6 months because honestly, I was ready to give up and stop fostering, and I didn't want to be that person. And she actually, how did you do it?
Oh, I knew the mom
You knew,
of the person that was leading the support group,
Okay.
and that person called you.
okay.
Yeah.
And so this person called me and was like, let me tell you what you're going through right now. You feel this, you're thinking this, and this has happened, and you're thinking about this, and she hit like, I don't know, probably 7 or 8 different things, and every one of them was absolutely true. And she said, and you're going to join our support group, right? And I was like, yeah. And that was a game changer too. That was huge. Not that they gave me answers that helped, although they gave me some tips and techniques, but yeah, just more to have people to talk to about it. So that was huge. What's my favorite thing to do with the kids? Man, that's tough. Like, I love going to museums with kids if they're up for it. I love doing the zoo, and I love laser tag, so I'm not sure. There's a science museum I love going to with the kids.
Hands-on.
Hands-on, yeah. But probably laser tag. Because, well, it depends on the day and where we go, but I really enjoy playing laser tag. And the fact that the kids love playing laser tag too, and I get to be a big kid, that's huge. Yeah.
We like taking them to movies.
Yeah,
Like
I love movies.
When we could, when we used to do that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, let's see here. Can you give some insight on Adopt US Kids website? Why did they put kids on that website? Oh my goodness. So here's what generally happens, and this is not always true, especially with smaller counties, it may not be true. But a child has been in foster care, and the foster family has decided they're not going to adopt that child. Once in a while, it's because that foster family, it might be like a single older woman. We've run into that several times, or an older man, and they're just like, I can't. Like, I'm not going to be around long enough or have the energy long enough to support this child. And so the county then first typically tries to find a placement within the county, but if the child's needs are high, then, and I just thought of an exception to everything I'm telling you, but if the child's needs are high, then they'll put them on Adopt US Kids. Typically, they're kids who have some high needs, and you may or may not find that out as you kind of get deeper in. Adopt US Kids has different levels of depth for a kid. And I know one state doesn't even put the actual pictures of kids on there. They put like fake pictures and break it to you later that that's not the kid. Well, or fake names, maybe fake pictures. I don't know. So definitely fake names. Now I'm questioning the pictures, but yeah. So but most places you do see the actual kid. I shouldn't have said that, but yeah, most places you see the actual kid. I think it's fake names they put up, not fake pictures. But there's another state that it's a completely different foster system, and so kids go on to Adopt US Kids a lot more easily than in any of the states I've been part of, and they have more kids on there. And in fact, if you were to look at sheer numbers of kids from states, you would probably know right away which one I'm talking about. But they put kids on there pretty quickly and easily, readily, so that it's not necessarily the foster family wasn't willing to take them in, right? Yeah, and if you have other things to add about that, if you happen to be someone who's used Adopt US Kids and knows a lot about them, go ahead and throw that in chat. But that's my perspective. There's some awesome kids on there. A lot of the kids, especially the older kids, are don't have a lot of the issues. Just people don't want to adopt older kids. So they're not. Well, none of these kids are in the system because they did something wrong, right? Stuff has been done to them, and yet they're often punished by being stuck in the foster system, and especially if they're older, not being able to really get out. All right. How do you support the kids financially? Do you continue to receive benefits once you adopt a foster child? Social worker. That's a question for you.
This is after adoption?
Yeah.
We're finding a big difference between California and Ohio, which surprises me because I've always thought adoption assistance was a federal program. So I don't know why there's such a difference, but normally it's done before the adoption. You have an adoption worker from the county. This is kind of typical. And they work with you on, okay, what are the needs of this child that are over and above what a birth child would possibly have? What are the special needs? And then you together come up with an amount of money that would help. It's a reimbursement. And it's not taxable, right? And so then the bunch of paperwork's filled out. The social worker has to get it okayed, of course, through supervisors. It's a process, but generally speaking, that's how it's done. And every couple of years, they have you redo that. But it's definitely beneficial. Sometimes you have to push a little and not be afraid to. Because it depends what county, but some of the social workers are told to keep it as low as possible.
And that was a huge difference between California and Ohio.
Big.
In Ohio, you have to push really hard for the adoption assistance. In California, they're like, cool, here you go. So I don't know, and that might not be true of every county in California either, but that was my experience, that they were like, how much do you need? All right, can you take a few bucks less than that? All right, here we go. So
I tell parents, because some of them feel bad or funny about asking for this additional money, but I tell them they're really helping this child, and it is going to take extra money whether you realize it or not, and not to be embarrassed or not to hang back, but just really what are going to be the extra needs.
Right. And I'd say too, it's not enough to live off of. We're not talking about, that kind of money, but it should be enough. So the way it was explained to me is that subsidies in foster care are supposed to provide enough money if all you buy is clothes, the necessary clothes from Walmart, so from one of the cheaper stores. You never eat out, never do fast food, always home, and to not cover any sports or extracurricular activities. That's what the foster care subsidy is supposed to cover. That's what we learned in training. I don't know what other people say about it, but that's probably correct. Or even we get a little more than that in subsidy. And then for AAP, the whole point of AAP is that people were not adopting children out of foster care because they couldn't lose that money. They felt like they couldn't support children at the same level of living without that money, so they weren't going to adopt them. They're just going to keep them in foster care forever. And so the federal government made this plan, said, hey, no, we're going to keep subsidies at about the same rate. That's how it's supposed to be. Yes, I've taken drops, but that's how it's supposed to be. So I kind of lost my train of thought there, but I think I covered that one. Anything else you want to say about AAP or about adoption assistance?
No, but there are a lot of hidden costs with the kids. So really explore that.
Mhm. Yeah, like with the one foster kid that we have now, oh my goodness, the hidden costs are off the wall. I mean, just the driving to appointments, which wasn't something we knew about when we agreed to take this child in. Oh my goodness, the gas, like it's constant and it's every day. So it's crazy. It's crazy. Yeah. So there are a lot of hidden costs that you have to consider, and so you make a list to show whoever you're applying to AEP through, and say, hey, this is what I think I'm gonna need, and you do every little thing you can think of because there's gonna be 100 things that you didn't think of, right? Okay. Oh, how do I support him financially? I do have a job. I have a job that's pretty decent, so that helps too. My job's flexible in a lot of ways, which I really appreciate. So I can work, and like lately, I've been working a lot at night after the kids go to bed. I've been putting in 3 to 4 hours of work then, so that I can be more present with them after school and different times of the day, which is huge. Let's see. I'm adopting 2 kiddos for the foster care system and have 5 total. Oh my goodness, awesome, Holly, that's great. Love that. Let's see. Was Robert really shy when you first met him? Is he generally a happy-go-lucky kid most of the time? So, was he really shy? I mean, the first night, well, no, the first weekend, he was shy, but then the minute they said that he was going to stay with me, that disappeared. Like, it really did. And he was a wrecking ball. Yeah, like he was just, not shy. Yeah, literally, but also just not shy at all. So, would go up to strangers, not shy. Is he generally a happy-go-lucky kid? Yes and no. Like, it's weird. He has his moments, you know? But I feel like if he's doing preferred activities, he's totally a happy-go-lucky kid. Or if we're just hanging out, happy-go-lucky kid. But, you know, schoolwork that he doesn't want to do or something, then no, not so much. So, and unfortunately, there's been a lot of that lately, a lot of schoolwork and all that stuff that we're dealing with. So that's it. Have I sustained any injuries from behaviors?
Not permanent, probably.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I have any permanent injuries. Ow. Yeah. yes, I have injuries currently from behaviors, and I don't know. I mean, it's a thing. They're not terrible injuries. It's not like anyone's going to. Nothing has been done towards me in a long time that I feel like my life was really in danger from kids. And in fact, often I've made the choice, rather than protecting myself, to be gentler with kids. Like, I don't know how to say that. Like, I've made the choice not to restrain them so that knowing that they'll probably scratch and bite and do things to me when they're totally triggered. And that's what it is. Fortunately, Robert, at his age and size, is way past all of that. So that would be harder, and that's something you have to think about and make a plan about if you're taking on children who are actually bigger or teenagers. That's a plan you want to talk about with your social worker. Any thoughts about how to handle any of that? Oh, social worker? Keep throwing that at you. Well, even in your special ed classroom, I imagine you had to worry a little bit.
A little bit. It's always a kind of a fine line, protecting yourself and, you know, I guess what I'm thinking, if a child hurts you, that's not good for them either. I mean, you might get hurt, but that's not good for a child to know he can hurt somebody. And so you kind
of, or the repercussions from,
or if there's serious repercussions, or having to leave a home. There's a lot of things that happen if a child hurts somebody. So I look at it that way sometimes when I'm thinking, oh, maybe I'm being too protective of myself. I have to also turn around what that means to the child if they should hurt me. And some of them would feel terrible. Some of them, not all of them probably, but it is something you should, and you should try to find out their level of behaviors before you accept them. Sometimes people think they know and they tell you what they know, but there's a lot of things unknown until you've had a child with you for a while. So I don't know.
we found that, like, so we found caseworkers that didn't believe the child had behaviors. They either said, oh, it was just with that past foster family because of the way they parented, right? And we found that some caseworkers didn't believe the child was aggressive because every time they hung out with the child, they were so sweet and polite and respectful, so they didn't believe any of that stuff in their packet, in their paperwork. And that was a terrible thing because it caught us completely off guard. I don't know. So there's been a lot of situations. There's been a foster family who didn't want to report behaviors because they thought they would get in trouble for the way they handled those behaviors, and so we had that happen as well. All right, let's see what's next here. Have I faced stigma about being a single father? And have I had to cut anyone out of my life due to it? Ooh, well, I'm gonna be careful. I'm trying to be careful how I answer this. Do you have anything to say while I'm wording that? I mean, yeah, there's been a lot. And some of it's shocking, really shocking, to be honest with you, that people think that men can't parent well or can't parent alone. It breaks my heart all the time, and it's over and over again the responses I get. I've been excluded from a lot of parent groups. It's really hard to get into like a parent-teacher organization at schools because I'm a dad and they don't want that, or they're not used to that, and so they have a bunch of moms doing stuff together, which is fine, but it's hard. And have I cut anyone out of my life because of that? Well, I would say that I've been in the process of making friends with people who I decided to stop that process. They weren't really close friends. They're people I'd worked with, and I decided I was done with them because of some of the comments they made.
I think you should mention churches, and not just one church, that feel that dads shouldn't, men shouldn't be dads. That's where you've gotten some comments or feelings or...
Yeah, unfortunately churches can be very traditional in their thinking about things, and man, some of the things people have said to me, like some of the comments are if I recorded it, I'm sure the people, well, I would hope the people would feel embarrassed afterward, but the things that folks say, yeah, so it's hard. I also have some just amazing friends who've stepped up and who've been like, this is awesome, and I'm going to be behind you 110%. And the support groups I've been part of, all across the board, have been so accepting and have become extended family, to be honest with you, which is huge. Yeah, which is huge. So yeah, it's just, that's life, I guess. There's bias out there. Sometimes people don't even know they have the biases. Let's see. Has anyone asked you to take in unaccompanied migrant kids? If not, are you expecting that to happen? I've heard about people doing this. No, that hasn't come across to me at all at this point. I'd love to. I speak very, very little Spanish, and maybe that's why I speak a little, but not much. I don't know. I'd love to have that opportunity, but no one's asked, and it's not being talked about in my circles at all either. So it's not something that's happening around here, I guess, at this point. But if you know how to make that happen, let us know, because I think that's really cool. What is the oldest kid that you would adopt? Are younger kids easier to deal with? Well, let me answer the first question first. I don't know. It depends on the kid. It really does. We've had a 17-year-old in our care that we enjoyed. We've had a 14-year-old in our care that we enjoyed. We had an 11-year-old in our care for a couple days only that we enjoyed.
You have a 20-year-old hanging out there, 19, how old is he? That would probably like you to
Well, yeah, what is he, 21?
Oh, is he?
Yeah, they would love for me to adopt him, yeah, for sure. So I don't know the answer to that. The only thing right now is I promised Robert that for a while, because we did almost all older kids, older teenagers, and so I promised Robert for a while he gets to be the oldest. So they, at least right now, need to be under 14, and that may change in a little bit. So, are younger kids easier or harder? What do you think? Across the board, or is it?
Across the board, now this is very general and 100 exceptions, but maybe some of the younger ones have been through less trauma, and so they might be easier to heal. Some of the older children, they've been with their biological family, and then they're taken away, and then they're back with the biological family, and every time that's a loss, and so those kind of things happen. I think the trauma, usually, this is general, is deeper, and so from that respect, younger children might be a little easier. Of course, they take a lot of energy, physical energy. I usually think the younger ones is more physical, the older one is more emotional. So I don't know.
Well, I'll add to that too. Like, yes, that's possibly true. But the other side too is we've had a lot of foster kids come in who are older, who really hadn't experienced a lot of trauma.
Yeah.
Like the events that led to them being removed were over a relatively short period of time, and so they weren't that traumatized, to be honest. They were kind of typical teenagers. So it really depends on the situation. Yeah, drastically. So, the burden of basic child care cost is mostly on the person adopting. Food, clothing, bills. Yeah.
Except the adoption assistance.
Yeah, whatever you get for adoption assistance. But yeah, other than that, I don't know. Robert's adoption assistance probably pays. I mean, it really, honestly, if I'm being honest, and he gets a fair amount, more than most kids here would get by far. It probably pays for 80%, 75 to 80% of the cost of having Robert as my child, which is great. Yeah, that gives you a number in there. I mean, ish.
And then to adopt, I don't know if that was part of the question. It depends, because it's different in the different places you've been. Some places you don't have to pay very much, maybe just for your life scan and things like that. And other places you pay an attorney, so.
Yeah, California is almost free. Here in Ohio, it depends on the county. We were gonna, I think we looked into it, and it was gonna be around 1,000, I think, for a lawyer to adopt, so it just depends. All right. I think that's I'm not seeing many other questions in here. If there is one, yeah, I think you're talking to each other, which is awesome. So we have a couple other questions. Let's just go through where there's some key ones off this list. These are questions that people have emailed me, and I've answered them, but some of them might be helpful for you to hear as well if you're thinking about foster care and adoption. So are there any there that stand out to you that we should hit really fast?
Well, one is, do you have the same social worker all the time, and assigned social worker, and that depends. Sometimes depends on the counties a lot, or the agency you're working for. Sometimes they assign social workers to the home, and sometimes they assign social workers to the child. So it can change. It's good if they can have the same social worker, but it doesn't always work. And are you able to discipline foster kids? There's a lot of laws around disciplining foster kids, but yes, of course, you're not allowed to spank, you're not allowed to do anything physical
Or humiliating.
But
Can't withhold food or bathroom rides.
Right.
You know,
and it's always good to work out with a social worker what's acceptable, what works, have a discipline plan. And sometimes you have to know the child a little bit, but they can earn things. We try to do the positive over doing negative, like they earn something positive for good behavior, or the more you can do positive, the better.
and I want to, because a lot of folks ask about spanking, I want to cover spanking really fast. So a lot of these kids are traumatized and have been abused and been hit, or have witnessed people being brutally beaten up, a mom or a dad by the spouse on a regular basis. And physical aggression, which is what spanking will translate to a child, or that's how they'll interpret it, that will just trigger those emotions, those feelings. They'll go back to that place, and you're going to see some bad, terrible behaviors come out of that. It's not going to be healing or helpful in the long run. Not with these kids, I promise. Like, it's just not going to be any good. So I know a lot of folks are appalled by that, but by the fact that you can't do that, that's the way you've been raised. But here, that doesn't seem to work very well. It's not something we can do. I have one more question here. Does Robert ever step up in parental ways with regards to new fosters? You've seen from the outside. What do you think?
Well, sometimes he tries, and maybe a little bit too much. He can get very bossy. Other times he, tries to be helpful. I overheard him telling one of the boys once how to treat or how to handle grandma and how to handle grandpa and how that was different from dad. And I just kind of heard him start that, and it was very interesting. And
how do you handle grandma? I want to know.
Probably pretty on target. He was pretty on target.
That's awesome.
But it's hard because one minute he wants to be the parent, and another minute he can't be the parent. So it is a balance. It is hard.
Yeah, and if I catch him, I always say, I'm the dad. I get to be the dad. Like, those are my words. And so, yeah, it's a struggle for him to not be in charge, especially when he knows the rules of the house. And he understands things, and he wants to be in that teaching mode. And it just gets to be a little forceful sometimes in like a parental way. So, let's see. I read a story that the California Department of Social Services has been leaving urgent phone messages to foster parents, but this may just be one of those rumors that people put out there. I'm assuming that's for the migrant children, or I'm assuming, but it could be in California. I'm not sure. I'm trying to think who. I mean, there are folks I know that foster in California. I haven't heard that story from them, but that doesn't mean anything. One or two people, so that doesn't mean anything. Yeah, it's possible. We're pretty far away from there, though, so I imagine we wouldn't be their first choice, like location-wise. Yeah.
There's a question here about practicing faith. If you go to church, are there obstacles with foster kids? And there used to, I think the law is the same, you can't force them to go. Over the years, what we found out is if you try to force it, then they're going to, of course, rebel more. So we would do things like the family would drop the child off on the way to church at another foster home, and eventually after a few weeks, the child wanted to go with the family. Another time, a teenager would go and she'd sit in the hallway and read a book, and then the parents would tell the youth pastor that this teenager's out there, and the youth pastor would come by and talk to that child and try to get them involved. And so the different things, I know in my experience, we tried. Eventually that child went ahead and went to church with the family. They were just, pushing it a little, I guess.
Well, folks, it's been about an hour, and so I'm going to wrap this up. But thank you so much, and thank you, Mary Jo, for sharing some of your expertise with us. If you have more questions, feel free to email them to me. I try to remember to put that. I'm starting to put that in comments, our email address, so that you can send us emails. So the last couple of videos probably have that. This probably doesn't at this point, but I may add it in a little bit. If you have other questions, if you'd like us to live stream again, please let us know. We'd love to do this if it's helpful to people, but let us know. We'll keep doing this for you. Also, sorry about the audio. We'll try and figure that out for next time. And I don't know how the video looks on your screens. I'm disappointed we couldn't use our camera. But yeah, thanks folks. Thanks for the questions and for supporting us and for supporting other people who are interested in doing foster care. Because every time you're on here asking us a good question, that helps all these other people who didn't even know they had that question. So that's awesome. Thank you for doing that. And we'll see you another time. Thanks.